always wanted to say the Rick Padgett show. I guess that sounds okay, but what we're going to talk about, tonight, hey, it's your America. It doesn't belong to government. It's yours. It's mine. It's all of us together. And in thinking about these things that are going on in our country today, and even on a local level, the biggest questions that we have is who's running the show? Do we know? I don't.
All right, no problem. I'm Pastor Demensia. Literally, I just ran for Orange County School Board here in Central Florida. And even with that, my own race is not really over with now because we have to find out what the supervisor of elections and the Secretary of State is going to decide.
I tell people all the time, you don't know politics until you run for office. You get into it, and then you find out that before you even sign the line or put the dotted line out there to everybody see it, they're already in the back rooms spinning the wheels, making the deals. And I'll say this, it kind of gets controversial, I guess. There's kind of the deep state mindset. What the public don't know won't hurt them.
Schools are a massive issue right now. What's happening in our schools, how they're affecting our kids, the things that they are doing to our children. We're not even going to see the results of this for 10 years. And that's the reason why we have to pay attention today.
Those young minds are like sponges. You give them something, they will absorb it at a certain point. If nobody is talking to your child, if you're not, somebody is. You better worry about what they're telling them.
They are taking our children and having unproven theories, everything. I mean, come on. Everything from the gender thing how much is it going to traumatize these girls to have boys hanging like they hanging, walking into locker rooms, walking into bathrooms? There is no privacy.
It's not just like Loudoun County, where we've already seen, and let's be very clear here, what's the impact to our kids trying to have them chop off their genitals? Well, it's not just that. It's also when we have individuals who take advantage of that system and the loopholes it creates, and they assault other students. And we've seen that. Loudoun County was very clear in the details on this, where we not only did it happen once, they covered it up, moved the kid to another school, and he did it again. And by the way, he's been convicted. So it's not a question of did he do this? He did. He's been convicted of the crime of assaulting multiple young women because of his claims taking advantage of this social experiment. But also they're saying math is racist. Math, numbers.
I've never understood that,
Science, which is the application of questions on the observable facts in our universe. That's somehow racist. The sun is somehow racist. I don't know what race it is, but it's racist somehow. And now they're adding in yet another new thing to this. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. Equitable grading. Have you heard about that?
Yeah. Oh, I've heard about that one. That's grading on a curve taken to a whole nother different level.
There's equitable grading that says that, well, because of the color of your skin, you don't have to do homework on time. You get a bump on your grades. You can only be taught in segregated classes by segregated teachers. And we have to give you additional bonuses just because you exist with the color of skin that you have. And by the way, if you have the wrong skin color, which by the way, Rick, you're the one they're talking about, then you get punished. And the last thing that's part of this wonderful wonderkind idea that came out of Harvard University is, and we're going to put all of the kids in the same class. So there's no more advanced classes. If you're good at math, doesn't matter. You're in the same math class as the kid who doesn't understand calculus, doesn't understand trigonometry, and you're going to be taught, all of them, the same class material. So who's benefiting here? One kid's being held back. One kid's still confused. Where's that classroom going? This is the next generation. We have completely confused them on every level.
I'm also an engineer. I've done a lot of work with college students, high school students. I've done them whether it was ministry-wise or secular and youth programs and all this other stuff. When you look a lot about what's going on, I'm going to tell you one of the things I really believe is the most detrimental parts for our schools, for education, just period. And Michael, you hit on it real heavy when you were saying some of what you were saying, and when you guys are talking about everybody starts getting put into one class. That's middle of the road mentality on steroids. It's just like, no one can win the race. Everybody must stay inside of that box.
And this is getting into our schools because of the school boards, where no one is paying attention. It's one of the least paid attention to elections. I mean, you almost never see it in the newspapers. You almost never hear about it on the talk radio programs. Almost none of the candidates ever get airtime. And this is a problem because then they get in and you don't know what they're looking to do. So when they suddenly go, hey, I believe in, I'm part of Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow or BLM, Citizen Action, all these various far left organizations. And they're like, I want to be racially sensitive and we have to do equitable grading. Otherwise, you're a racist. The rest of the board is like, I don't want to be called a racist. Okay.
Chad, tell us about what you got going on in the race and how it's turning, and give us a little idea about you and what you're looking to do.
I ran into one of our neighbors maybe a week ago who is doing a lot of the flipping in our neighborhood, and I asked him, I said, are you having a hard time finding staff and keeping staff and maintaining like a steady staff? He was like, oh yeah, no, we're all suffering. And it's, I think that's a real thing that so many businesses are dealing with.
Oh yeah.
I think if you rewind the clock and you think about what's going on in school systems across the nation and the change of pace that they've let go of mastering skills, and it's just, lesson after lesson after lesson. Students they're taught to just shift. They're not taught, hey, sit still, do this work, master this word, be the best at this word, and then let that carry you through life. They're taught to shift over and over and over again. And I think that's what we're seeing.
We had a superintendent in Durham, North Carolina. I found out later that President Obama had been watching the superintendent there and appointed him later for a school safety position within the national government. So I now knew why the numbers were going to be skewed.
Can I ask a question, Chad? And I find it terrifying, Rick, that you had a superintendent who had troubles in his schools, and the answer coming from the Obama administration was, okay, so that means we have to elevate him. He actually failed on his way up, and he was promoted to a higher responsibility for failing at the job he had. That's terrifying, and that's definitely America's school system under the democratic rule, the progressive ideology, in my point of view. But Chad, I wanted to ask one quick question of you.
Sure.
You said you were going through the remote learning with your 9-year-old. I don't know if that involved Common Core math, which I've looked at it before, and I'm a reasonably intelligent man. I've been a stockbroker, I've worked internationally, and I can't make heads or tails of it. I grew up with the math that got people to the moon. I don't know what Common Core is.
That's some pretty good math.
Did you also see in that any elements of this idea that math is racist, or any of that math or science that they're somehow racist and that they're introducing new materials to fix that? Did you see that?
And so they want to introduce math and focus on those social things, as opposed to using math to teach someone how to balance a checkbook or how to do a profit and loss statement. They want to use social concepts and social examples to teach math. And there's a concept, a book called Courageous Conversations. And this book is a guiding system for school board, district leaders, county leaders, state leaders. And it is all about using race to set policy and standard. And I'm doing my work, he's reading the story, and all of a sudden he looks up to me and he says, hey, Dad, what's racist? Oh, okay, that's interesting. So we talked about it a little bit. He says, okay. I said, well, why are you curious? He says, well, he goes, okay, now, and I'm like half white and half Puerto Rican, right? Yes, that's good. Yeah. He goes, okay, good. So then I said, well, why is that important to you? And he says, well, because only white people are racist. And I
That's a lot.
and I paused for a second. And so then I had to go read what he was reading, right? I was like, oh my God, what is happening in a third grade reading program? The context is all about white people being racist.
Yeah.
So
I mean, when you go ahead.
Well, no, I was just saying, so I have seen that in its real form, and the book Courageous Conversations. If you should check it out and look at it. It is a guide to teach county leaders, district leaders, how to write policies under the context and under the assumption that to be racist, you must be a member of the dominant race and in a sustained position of power. So in America, the definition of racism now absolutely is you can only be racist if you're white.
You're talking about a lesson and a book that your 9-year-old came to you, that book, that lesson just told your son you are evil. That book, that lesson just told him you are racist by definition because of the color of your skin by birth. And that half of his family is somehow intrinsically and absolutely racist and evil because of the color of their skin. That is a terrifying thing to teach a child. And who are they putting in as the authority in your families if they're saying, well, your dad is now an evil guy, he's a racist. You should listen to who instead. And I would love to hear all the people who were responsible for introducing that book. I would love to hear their answer about why they teach that.